we have a lot of products under middleware, and specifically in middleware, we are working on the migration space. So we have a bunch of applications. So this is one of them. If somebody knows that the middleware is the backbone of any enterprise. So IBM is the working since 3-4 decades on a integration space, and they have a good client space on the integration specific areas. So what we have done, because as the Royal Cyber, we were working as a consultancy, doing the consultancies for the integration space for a long time. So we thought to create something that will help us and customer to migrate their existing services and infra in a way that will be easy to migrate in the new versions. Because uh, every integration product has a problem that whenever a new trends are coming, new, we can say the architecture style or patterns are coming, the product has to adopt that. The downside of that thing is, for instance, if somebody has implemented a large volume of services on some specific version, and we have to move to the newer version, it's a hectic process. Because uh, on a live, let's say this take example of a commerce. For example, if we have 100+ services up and running for a huge number of customers, right? So to move that from existing infra to the new one is a hectic process. You need to think a lot of possibilities. So for that, migration should have a seamless process. To do that, this utility will help us to do that migration in a different patterns, whichever suitable for the for our customers. So agenda today is we'll discuss why we need to have IIB to ACE migration, why it is needed, what are the patterns we have available, what are the best practices, what are the feature we have. We'll see a couple of demos and ROI and benefits at the end. So first of all, what is the need of migration on this space? IBM Integration Bus is there with starting from version 6, 7, 8, and 10. Now the 10 version is where we are currently. Customer have their code base as of now, but it's getting obsolete. So right now the customer who have Integration Bus 10, they are in the extension period. They have to move to IBM App Connect. So it's a need to migrate all of the services which are there on IIB today have to migrate into App Connect. So of course, there was need of a utility that can help the customers to do that migration. So that's why we start working on that product last year. We had 4-5 webinars on this, and then we have got 2-3 customers. We are implementing this migration using I2AC. I'll explain when we go to these patterns that how we are using this utility for a different customers. So why we need to, first of all, we need to understand why from IIB to App Connect we need to move, because IBM is keep on changing their products in a way that will help the customer in a way that is up to the current standard, where we need to achieve the better in the performance, in the productivity, in the development, all the aspects. So if you talk about the App Connect, it of course is a developer friendly environment. It gives a lot of feature that can help developers to develop the integrations, in a way that was one of the example is, for example, if you need to write some configuration, previously the configuration was part of a server side component. So a developer write an integration, give to a administrator write the commands and inject the service configuration within the server. Now what they have done, they have given policies that can be created right from the toolkit. As a part of your code, you will combine your configuration with the code. So it's a more developer friendly development patterns. It's of course AI powered. They have introduced some AI based component that can help developer to understand, some of the development standards. They have introduced testing of the individual components that can be used and easily integrate with any modern DevOps pipelines. Uh, they have new connectors. They have hybrid cloud operations and a business transaction monitoring. So they out of the box, they have the business activity monitoring. And you can attach that with any of the Splunk or Kibana kind of monitoring tools. Now, whenever we talk about the migration basically we have two patterns in migration. In parallel migration, what we talk about that I have my source system and I have my target system. I want both of these systems to be up and running for some time. So for instance, I want to do my migration in a more iterative way. So I have 100 services, for instance. I will divide into groups and I will plan to migrate in the groups rather than in a one go. So my source and target will always be running up and running. Same time, I can route my traffic to the target systems, and in case of any problem, I can come back to my source. So both will be up and running to a time where I would think that now that's the time that I can move my all the services into a new system. That's what we call a parallel migration. Now, an in-place migration, in the parallel migration, we always get the new servers. So you have to have new hardware, you install your servers, and then you can migrate from source to the destination. While in place, I don't have the new server. I utilize the same infrastructure. I will utilize the same server. Rather, I will set up and move and migrate from IIB to App Connect on the same machine. So it's like I will shut down my source and I will start my target. What we have done in I2AC that we have provided a functionality that in case you shut down your source, you move your and you started your service in your target runtime. And if there any problem, we have a rollback that you come back to your source. So we'll talk about that. Extract migration is something that that is a mix of these two types. In extract, what we do, we copy the runtime along with source code configuration, and we'll just dump that into the target system and we start that. If we'll talk about as a concept, parallel and in place, you just set up your source and target and you manually migrate your components one by one. But in extract, I'll take a snapshot of my source and I just dump the snapshot into my target and I start that, it should work. That's what way where we thought that this kind of utility can help us in the migration process, which is very lengthy and a hectic process itself.
Just for clarification,
yep,
we as Royal Cyber are making those utilities.
Yep.
The migration platforms are belong to IBM.
Yes. So how it works is, every middleware solution or any development solution has its development environment where a developer comes, develop something, roll out to the production and it's working, right? And then there is administrative utilities that works on top of that product to provide that functionality which is needed, like for administration. Or for example, I want to, let's say servers, right? I want to stop servers. I want to, decommission something. I have a cluster, right? I have a cluster of 5 nodes. I want to stop those 2 servers on some specific times. So there are whole programming on top of that product, which will help us to administrative that. So what we did, we play with those APIs to wrap on top of our, to wrap on those as a product, which will help us to seamlessly move everything, whatever we need. So we started with the source code, we added configurations. Now we are adding some reporting on top of that. So for instance, one of the problem with the migration is the confidence level, right? So for example, let's take an example of Java. I have a Java application which is there. It uses, for example, databases. It uses some files as a dependencies. Who will make sure that if I'll take source and take to the target, who will make sure that I have all the dependencies available in my target, right? Let's say if we have legacy application, which are there from since 20 years or 30 years, and it's there, right? And there are a lot of teams who worked on and they left already. So we don't have the proper documentation. So we need something that will make sure that what are the dependencies needed for this application to run wherever you want to go as a target. So these utility will help us in that aspect. It will not take the source code only. It will fetch all the dependencies and will create those dependencies into the target system. Not only create, if any translation needed moving from previous version to the new version, that translation will also be done through these utilities.
So this versioning is of our product, which is deployed on IBM services rather than IBM itself versioning its whole platform.
No, how we are doing now, we talk, for example, IBM, we have been talking with IBM on this product. We have given demonstration to them. So the plan is right now, we'll work with IBM to get that customer base, and we'll work together as a partner to fix all those problems of migration which they have today. So this is one thing. The other is we want to use it as a utility that can be there on a cloud, for instance, and anybody who want to use it even without us, they can download it, they can use it, and they can have for there with sit with it for a specific time, and we'll get over as a service based subscription. They can use that, and we'll help them in case of any support needed. So we have a lot of models we are working on. We'll discuss more once we'll. So migration, as I said, migration is normally migration. When we say migration, it's a manual process. You need to go to read your source, then you need to list down the things you want to migrate, and then you need to figure out in that list what are the things I can automatically migrate, and is there any new work I need to do. For instance, uh, let's take an example. Why I'm saying Java, because everybody is, from programming mindset, we can understand easily. So for example, there was some features which were in Java 1.5, and when we moved to Java 15, there were a lot of things that changed, right? So that translation, who will do that translation? So if I'll write something that will do that translation for me, it is a very helpful thing for me. Otherwise, I have a lot of Java classes, I have a lot of patterns, interfaces, everything. And if I'm using something that is change, people are reluctant to do that change, move to the new system because of that change and implementation cost needed to fix those things, right? So if we'll have something that will fix for them, it will be help to migrate those. We implement this idea for this product, but this idea is basically for everything. We can take this idea and we can implement in any kind of product or a project or a paradigm where we think that it can be effective. So another thing is, when we were working on this product, not only the manual stuff we want to get rid of the manual dependencies that somebody going to need to read, study that system, and then need to come up with a strategy. There was automation was a very important factor, because a lot of companies are there to use the automation DevOps pipelines for their deployment. There are a lot of tools in the market. Everyone has a different kind of clouds environment there, and some are trying to reach there. So we have to write something that can be used in an environment where there is no DevOps at all, and we can use an environment where they have a more sophisticated development or deployment pipelines, where we can use our utility to do this in a more automatic way. I'll have a case study. We'll go through that, and then we'll discuss in more detail. So I2C, as I said, it's a utility solution by Royal Cyber for our customers to help migrate from IIB to App Connect. Of course, once you automatically doing something and you have something that will detect the stuff which you need to do, it's a huge productivity saver for you. You will save a lot of time. So I always see when you need to migrate, I think the time should be invested to test the target rather than thinking that how we can do the migration. That's why you'll see that development projects are smaller, but the migration projects are much bigger in the timelines. It of course will migrate much faster if you're trying to do compare with the manual migration. It has leveraged the IBM Transformation Advisor. So the question was asked that how we are working in this product. So IBM has provided some raw utilities that anybody can use to see that once they will migrate, what will be the impact. So one of that utility is this advisor. So we can use this advisor to read our source, and it will give us some recommendation that you can take and you can show and realize that what happened if I move my services. So for instance, I'm trying to use a feature in IIB that is no more available in App Connect. As same example, something was in Java 1.8, now it's not available in 1.7, but I'm using heavily for that feature. So how I will maintain that feature into the upcoming uh, versions? There are two aspects, right? One is the development. For instance, I was using, I just say sake of the arguments, I'm using an abstract class in a way that is not available to be used in the world. I have to rewrite something. I have to implement the new interfaces or something like that, right? This is a development perspective. Once I understand that, okay, I can implement that and it will be fine. What is the operational cost related to this move? So for instance, in source system, my administrative team using some command line utility to manage those things. Is this the same thing will be managed in the target system or no? That is also something that we need to understand. So in migration, it's not only the source code, it's not only the business, it's all about the administration as well that you need to take care that. For example, this operational team are very reluctant to the change. They don't want to change because they have their own set of tools. They have their own mindset that they're playing with the product so long, they don't want to change themselves. So we always need to think that we want to move, but we don't want to move everyone. We don't want everyone to be realize that it was moved. So there are some migration that can impact the paradigm. So for example, operation will change, development will change, architecture will change. But some migration are that type of migration where you don't want everybody else to be impacted, but I will change from my source to target to achieve some certain specific areas, like for example, development paradigm, or as I said, in this specific area, my server support is not there anymore in next couple of years, let's say. So I have to migrate. So all these aspects basically you need to take care when you talk about. So this IBM Transformation Advisor help us to identify, is there any operational change I need to make? Is there any development change I need to do? Is there any really development needed or some configuration change would help me? So this report is a very handy for us. And this report, a migration summary report, is basically give a snapshot once we'll move to the target. What is the snapshot of my services? All services are up and running, or if some services are not working, what are the reasons for that they're not working? These are the some features. We'll talk. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's that easy that I'll go to the specific server. In IIB, if anybody knows from the audience, IBM Integration Bus is like a server, and in one server there are different servers, encapsulated by the applications. For example, there are three levels. You have one node, they call it a broker previously, now they call it a node. And then inside node, we have a different servers. And in each servers, you can have your application. So it's a logical containers for a different kind of applications. For example, all of my account services can go to a server, which is account server. So it's logically have that. So I can extend or reduce the capacity of that server based on the usage of the services. So this is how that. So this utility will take the snapshot of a source and will directly dump to the destination. You don't have to create your servers and you deploy again, along with the source code and the configuration itself. And then of course, it's very easy to use. We have a bunch of way to use that. Then of course we use the TA, and at the end we'll give the report that what happens with our migration. So right now we started on this product back in 2022, and we divide the 22 and 23 into mainly 4 releases. We start with the parallel migration. Once we test that, we move to in place. And then if you understand that in integration, the MQ, especially in IBM integration, MQ is a very major component. So without MQ, your integration won't work because that's a backbone of the integration. So then we added the MQ migration. So like if you know the environment in IIB, each node is attached with the MQ. So whenever you want to migrate a node, you have to migrate the MQ instance as well. So we added that later in 2023. And then of course, we have two type of patterns we are using in our application: agent and SSH. So when I say agent, agent mean I have a server and I will deploy my application on that same box as an agent, and it will do everything for me. And SSH pattern, like for we can sit outside of that box and we can connect through SSH and we'll get our stuff. So we have these two patterns in the environment where people don't want us to touch the production boxes, for instance. So we can use a build machine to do our whole migration. This is our product architecture. As I said that in IIB, we call it broker, and then they have integration server, and inside that we have applications. It will take that a snapshot of the server. It can copy to the any shared location, and then we'll move to this ACE box and we'll start the migration. So when we say the migration, it will generate some artifacts in the form of TA and a summary report. And once it is migration and you have any testing strategy needed, we can integrate the testing or test suits with our I2AC suite to start that testing to see, like, for example, what was the so for instance, when I say testing, you have your source, for example, your source service is running on a port 9080, and you have a test case that is working there. So in parallel migration with this architecture, what we can do, we have a test case that automatically run on source service on 9080 and will get the results. And then once you will migrate, you can have the same service on a new destination, and you can again call that service to get the results. See, both results are same, which means service are absolutely fine. So we have that capability in the product that you can inject the test suite. We will take care for the target and we'll compare the results. If anything will not working, we will just highlight and then we will see what is the resolution for that.
If you have to do manually with this, this way, what will be the difference in terms of if I have to do, let's say 10 days it takes to do manual. If I use this framework, is it likely to reduce it 50% and 60%?
So if you're talking about I will take manually 10 days, and if you do the product, it will come to 2 days.
We can do it 2 days.
2 days. And why I'm saying that, because, you know, as I said, migration is not something that there is a process for migration. It's not like that. You haven't heard, there is a lot of patterns for development. There are a lot of patterns for deployments. There are a lot of pattern how you design your application, but there is no pattern how to migrate the applications.
So this framework will also help in defining the process, because you have to predefine, make it prerequisite before inputting into this framework. So the process we define, or like the tool itself can help us in defining that.
So when every vendor, whenever they work on a product, they give us suitable guidelines how to migrate this. Like, for example, if you take the example of MuleSoft. MuleSoft give their own recommendation to migrate their systems. IBM has its own recommendation. So whenever you write a product or you will do manually, for instance, you will go through that process to migrate. What we have done, we incorporate all those guidelines into a utility that will help you to do your stuff more in an automated way. So for example, if I have to do migration today, the first thing I will do, I will go to the server and I'll take a snapshot to see what is there. Are we using some services which are HTTP only, or there are SOAP services, or there are database connectors, or are there something which are like more adopters? Because each functionality would have a different kind of considerations.
So this is a framework for migrating from source to destination. This is designed in a way that it's only for IIB-to-ACE, or this can be for any migration.
No, the same framework we are using for other products as well.
I know, but this is a base framework. We can take it and use for any.
That's what I was saying. So for example, if somebody from here is a Salesforce guy, right? The idea of migration is same, right? I need to have two systems. Either I can have a new systems to migrate, Or somebody will say, no, I don't need a new system. I cannot afford that. I will use the same server and hardware, but I want to upgrade to a new version. So one of this pattern will implement there. Regardless, it's an IBM or a MuleSoft or a Salesforce or a SAP.
It has to be in the same, let's say like product or tool.
Correct.
If I want to migrate from IBM to MuleSoft or software AG or whatever,
that translation need to write. So right now what will happen, we have the translation in between. From source to destination, we have that translation. Now we are working on this. What if we can translate across different products?
That would be amazing.
Yeah. Right. So framework would be same, but the translation, the bridge we have that have to write in a way that will translate.
More generic, so that when you plug and play, it will work for any product.
Right. Right. So that's the framework. I think we keep on discussing this. But as I said, the parallel migration as a concept is just that I want to keep my both systems up and running at the same time, at least for some time, where I can see and observe that everything is fine, and then I move to the.
We are doing parallel or different shift?
Both. I have that case study. We'll discuss that. So these are the modes. I said parallel, in place, and a silent. We'll discuss in more detail, but I'll just quickly parallel. As I said, your source will stay there until you're going to delete and destroy that. It will stay there. Your destination will be up and running. You can test that. You can give, like, for example, route some of the less critical services to the new system, take the, get the results, observe the trend, and then you can decide your strategy to move.
Just to let you know, because of this framework, we want Kroger competing with IBM. That was a big deal. Kroger is like $50 billion, 100+ billion.
Yeah, I'll come to that slide when we'll see why because I'm working with them. So I'll tell you how we get that there and what is the next step for us for this product to achieve into that level. We'll discuss that. In place is of course, same server. I just need to upgrade everything. So it's like reshuffling. But if you will do this manually, you don't have the mechanism to roll back to the old system in case you need. But with this utility, we trans in 2 mode. So you can lift and shift, right? I can go to the new systems. I can observe what is going on. If I feel that at any point of time, no, it's not working due to some issue, I can go back to the system. It will stay there in that state in a silent mode, you can say, or a suspended mode. Now the silent mode for us is the parallel in place are basically a UI based. It's like a Java utility that you can run on to connect with your systems and do this migration. Silent is more kind, for example. So for example, if I have to migrate 2 servers or 3 servers, 4 servers, I can do that. I can go to each machine, migrate to the new. I have the mappings. I will migrate to the new services. I will announce that migration is done and finish. What if I have the enterprise where I have 60 servers, 70 servers, right? 80 servers. I cannot do that, right? So I need to automate that part. So for that, we have a silent version that can be automated with any DevOps pipeline. It can automate with the Jenkins, it can automate with the Bombo, we can integrate it with any configuration management tool. And we can write a playbooks or a script or anything that can be run, and we can execute it n number of servers. So that's why we have these 3 flavors in that. And as I said, we have agent base and SSH. Agent has to be sit on that particular box, and SSH can be used from any. Now, I think we have talked about parallel migration a lot. So that's how my source and destination will be same. And there are some digital channels, for instance, and my legacy applications, they will seamlessly keep on talking on a same. When I say more in a technical term, the application from left side and right side would have no idea that there was any migration. So all the ports, all the configuration, everything would be same. And we have shifted the middleware. So this is a case study we are working for one of our client. So the idea was they were working on IIB in a multi-instance cluster. There was a two-node MQ cluster with the IIB, and they were so then they were planning to migrate to RDQM, which is a three-node cluster. And of course, the target node are three only. So it's a good candidate for a parallel migration. So what we did is this is a new architecture. So we are sitting somewhere on this. So this is basically Azure cloud. They are moving their infrastructure to the cloud. So we are sitting somewhere, connect to these machines to move over, snapshots which we have a backup and we'll execute our migration. So parallel in those kind of cases where you have a limited number of servers and you can one by one handle one server, migrate it, check the results and move to the other one.
So how many applications we have?
N number of migrations. We are not, so when we say node servers, a server can contain 10 applications, a server can contain 1000 applications. That depends upon the capacity. Our application will not affect if somebody having 100 application in one server. It only will take time to migrate because that.
So volume should not impact.
No, should not impact. But of course, we have some recommendation. Like in this customer, what we are planning, they were having two nodes. Now, when we are migrating, we have a three nodes cluster. So he asked me, okay, give us any suggestions. So in that way, we have the recommendation how to distribute two nodes into three nodes for the optimal utilization of your resources. Because the easy part is you'll just one by one move to the node one and node two and keep one as a empty just for some time. But that is not 100% utilization of the resources. So that thing we need to think of. So it's a very short demo. Let's see.
So these nodes nodes are created already.
So right now it's showing that the source has these nodes. So I have run this on the source side to get all these, take a snapshot of these nodes.
So you're taking a snapshot and then move to
Yeah. So it will back up.
So once if you take a snapshot, where it will store?
You have two options. Either you can have a common MGB server that you can move, or you can locally move yourself and then you can start running everything.
There's a lift and shift number. Break it and then. Get any errors or issues migrating. You can fix it here.
Some of them we can fix. If it's a development change, then of course.
We cannot automate this, like, for example, if I hundreds of nodes sitting, I'm going to manually click and they come back.
We'll come to that other case maybe.
That was your question. We create the servers there. This script is coming up.
Well, my question was, can I schedule it? And I'm sleeping.
The next time you have that.
So, so as we're saying that parallel, you can migrate and you can have both systems up and running, and you can utilize both of the servers for some time unless you want to obsolete your source. There was a question you were asking that which approach we are using in the Kroger, right? So this was the parallel was approach was there for the customer who has limited number of servers. So we can easily go to that, visualize what we have there in the source, and we can migrate and then we can see the target. But if you have n number of, so we need to mix this approach in a way, both in place and parallel, to achieve that. We get to that. So in place, as I said, it's just it's similar to parallel, but there is no new server. You will have your own server and you will migrate. So that's the only difference between in place and parallel. Now, silent mode is what if I want to automate this? So for example, uh, I was having 3 servers. I connected to each server. I just get whatever I need and I move to the target and I migrate that. But if, as I said, my servers are 70, 80 servers, right? And I cannot just go sit in each server and run the migration. But if I have to automate that, I need to plan that I'll migrate 10 servers in 2 weeks. And I will just plan that migration, in a sequential way, and just check the results. So while I will be checking results of migration 1, I can, go and migrate the other set of servers. So in that way, we have another mode, which we call a silent mode, that can be integrated with any, as I said, a pipeline. right now in Kroger, what we are doing is we have writing Ansible playbooks. In an Ansible playbooks, we have integrated I2AC, and those Ansible playbook can be run anytime. You can schedule them, you can run on demand, and that will basically integrate with I2AC. So I2AC will connect to the source, get the stuff, and those run playbooks will be help them to run that on a periodic way. So just discussing in more detail, this is the architecture what we are working today. So for example, in an environment where you have, so there are two kind of enterprises. In enterprise one, you have one enterprise bus, which is a middleware, and that is connecting your systems. But in some other environment, there are there are their middleware is divided into different components. So like, for example, we'll take example of the Kroger, like we have not a single middleware. There are 3, 4 different middlewares in their enterprises that is connecting with the different components. So for instance, they have stores, like for example, in e-commerce, like a Walmart or Kroger, each store have its own server because you cannot keep a store dependent on a server which is sitting somewhere else. Either it should be a cloud, or if it is an on-prem, the server has to be there because each store has its own set of applications. So for instance, Kroger or Walmart in California would have their different rules infused into their systems. Rather, if there are stores which are in the Michigan or Illinois, that has a different strategies. So application are different, right? You cannot have a same deployed there. So all these big commerce systems has their specific servers in each store that holds all the application needed to run those applications. So for example, financials, some are using their own specific discrete financial systems. Some are using their common cloud-based environment. So it depends. So that's why the number of servers increased in such environments. Like for example, right now what we are migrating from Kroger is a 70 plus servers. So we cannot do that manually. And even we cannot do that using the utility, have a UI, just do it one by one, and we cannot do that. So that's why in such an environment, what we need to do, we need to use a silent version. We have to write scripting, like as I said, in Ansible, we integrate that with Ansible, and we try to run the same application in a way that would automatically take the source, move to a shared location, then from the target, and it will run. And as I said, we will have a test cases which is connected to the source, will run to the source, will get the results, and the same test cases will run on the target to match and will generate the reports. So that's where we, in a high volume, like in volume in the sense of a servers, we need to use the silent mode. It's a short demo. So what we can do in this kind of situations, for example, in Jenkins or Bumpo, it's very easy to write a pipeline where, for example, you will take migration from your source and you will try to generate a report. You will send an email to a group of people who will review that. And based on that, either they will say, no, don't deploy it. We have to work on that. Or they can send a reply on that email that will come back to Jenkins, and Jenkins will take that, read that email content and get that desired template of a response. And then from there, it will start migration on the target machines. That's the one approach. The other approach is, for example, in some companies, they already have presence of Ansible kind of tools where they are installing their infrastructure using Ansible. They are writing their playbooks. So in that case, you can easily give them CLI version. They can integrate with their playbooks and they can do that automation for us. So that's why we have this. The last option, which I said, that is MQ migration as well. So for IAB and App Connect, MQ is like a brain. So all the data is moving from the ESP to the ESB is through the queues or topics. So you have to migrate that as well. So what we have added last year is that the migration of the MQ with the whole of its object space, like for example, listeners, channels, queues, repositories, everything will be taken as a backup and it will move. Of course, the ROI is that the migration will be much faster. You can spend more time in testing of your new server rather than analyzing and verifying that dependencies, where we need to take it and how to take that. It's a platform agnostic. You don't have to worry about. For example, we have tested our application for Windows, Linux, AIX, and it's working for all major versions. We are using always the best practices from IBM for this migration. It's very easy to use and it will give you a visibility what we are going to migrate. So that's something that will give advantage in case once we'll present something that we are ahead of. If I don't need to go and analyze your migration, I have tool that will analyze for me. What are upcoming features? So at the end, I just want to explain that we were talking with Alex on the other day that we are trying to add AI in a form that can help us to translate the problem. So this is all good, right? If everything was smooth, it 100% migrated, we are good. What if there are problems? So now the question normally people ask, who is going to fix those problems? So there are two kind of problems. One problem number one is that the configuration change or a translation needed to change that component in a way that is available in the new system. The other is the development changes. You cannot use a Java component like you used to do in IIB. Now in App Connect, you have to change that code and need to come up with a new, pattern. So we are planning to write an AI-based knowledge base that will help us to create the templates for all the problems we will have. So whenever we will have a problem in our migration, it will consult to that knowledge base. If of course it will have all the list of errors as a solution, and the solution will keep there will be that is 100% accurate. Will not go to the web and search for the solution and try to scale and index based on the that what will be good. We already have tested that solutions. We'll keep on a knowledge base. It will help us in a way that will help us on a fly. We can translate even the components. That's what we are working on. We are right now, what we are talking about is all on-prem. Now we have to write I2AC for OpenShift because now IBM moving this product from an on-prem to the cloud, which they call the cloud pack. So all these cloud pack products basically being built on top of OpenShift. So we are working on writing this application for the OpenShift platform that will keep all your cloud management in a way that is needed for cloud native applications. And of course, another area which we are working on to keep this product in a marketplace. So anybody can go there, buy that product, and they can use of their own. So these are the three paradigm which we are currently working on.
So we have this in marketplace today.
We are planning. So we already have a thread that what are the things we need to do to keep it on the marketplace. We are already talking on that.
One feedback is the UI can be improved and it's like to do. It looks little.
Because that's UI is an agent-based UI, right?
But how to make it?
Normally, these products have no UI. If you'll ask me,
how can we come up with a framework where it's just a click of a button, things should happen? I see this before, I see this after. I'm selecting this notes, clicking of the button, migration happens. If it fails, I get an auto email or other. And
that's what we the demo 2 was there. See,
but
there are some actions. There are some actions that
I don't want to go to Putty and
correct
the commands and all those things should be automatic. You know
yeah. So you have to write as a job, right? Like as I said in a Junkin, you can write as a job that you can automate. And here you will define everything. So of course, to automate something, I need to write, some script on top of my application that will do that
behind the scene. Me as a user should not open and do it.
Yeah, of course. But when you talk about the product, people love to see the UI. So that's where we started with. But we were having that idea in our mind that UI is not going to work because we need a background application that can be connect with anything. It can UI, a web-based application, a swing-based application, or a command line utility, or an automation, we can use any.
Because as you said, like how to integrate this with the DevOps pipeline. I know like you're talking about Ansible and all this stuff.
This was, I showed in Junkin, right?
Jenkins.
Yeah.
But I mean like how can you make it more flexible so that it can connect to my Azure pipeline? Or my AWS pipeline.
So so any cloud has its own tool chain, right? So they have like, for example, I was using Junkin. I'll not use Junkin. I will create this CLI and integrate with that tool chain. And that tool chain is connect with this to talk to that particular source to get.
As you said, like it's not just the migration, right? I mean, it's post migration, how to do the testing.
Correct.
Before and after, I need to make sure it works well.
So for testing, what we have today and what we are doing in progress as well. So we have a list of test cases for the source. So for example, how they are doing today whenever they want to roll out a new component. What testing they are doing today. So we'll take that set.
So we have to do in that way or like you do before and after comparison?
That's what I'm saying. We take the source and then we will create a target test cases. So we'll have 2 sets of test cases. So once migration will be done in our pipeline, we'll call both.
Okay.
And we'll create a report and we'll match 1-to-1.
Or you're saying like in IIB, I had some set of test cases. I ran it worked. Same test cases I'm going to run on ACE.
Exactly.
Run it and make sure it
exactly
works.
And I give a report that what was the 1-to-1 results. If everything was good, it's working, right? At least on a smoke testing level. Functional,
this tool this can trigger those test cases and does the testing
doing that
also and gives you a report saying, hey, it failed in this area. It's doing today?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna work with any ETL tool like Talent or Informatica as well. Like if I'm getting the data and I'm generating the report.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. This is an idea. So whenever you have idea, you have to start with anywhere, right? So because we were having a lot of customers for the IBM, so we thought, and another reason was that because IBM, there's a time frame for each of the versions. So IBM is frequently changing each version. We thought
IBM like DB2.
correct. So I see all IBM tools has the same pattern which we have here. They have a product. They will have a CLI administration on that product to work on. So if you are using this pattern, all IBM tool is going to work with them. Other than that, MuleSoft, web methods, all integration specific source has the same architecture. So you can use.
If I want to do soft version A to version B, I can use this framework and put today.
Correct. That translation need to write. That's what we are working, right?
But at least we have the base.
We have the base. We have the idea. So that's what I'm saying. The idea, we were having this idea and we were plotting how to start working on that. So we thought IBM is a good candidate to start with because we can have some customers until my product, nobody is, buying my product. It's not adding any value to the society, right? If somebody, Sayed was asking that we were the bidders for Kroger project and along with IBM. And why they gave us a chance because of this utility. Because they knows that if they will talk to IBM on any specific case, of course, IBM will have a a very good range of consultants who can come and work for them. But right now, even IBM, they don't have that kind of specific utility that can fix any problems.
More than time, it's a quality too. If I do this
Exactly.
manually, I will end up in a lot of errors and issues. But I can trust this tool than the manual way of migrating.
Absolutely.
That's a key thing.
Absolutely.
Make
So
the customer.
right now, what we are doing, we started since Jan, and now what we are working with Kroger is analyzing post-migration activities. Otherwise, if I would not have this tool, I would have planning that how to migrate this. I'm not concerned about that. I'm planning ahead at once we'll do migration, how to manage these clusters, how to manage this MQ, how to manage these environments. So that's the benefit once you have that utility, and that of course give you value for your migration. And they are acknowledging us very well. They are appreciating all the things we have done in this space, and it's adding a lot of knowledge in our
So moving forward, I'm seeing this as